The galaxy heard the SOS, and chose silence. Civilizations calculated the risk. Councils voted. Probability charts flashed cold numbers across bright screens. And one by one, they decided it wasn't worth saving. But humanity has never been good at walking away from the impossible. When everyone else turned their backs on the darkness, humans stepped into it. Commander Aria Vale stood inside the launch bay of the rescue ship Iron Promise and listened to the station alarms echo through the metal walls. The sound was not a warning for her. It was for everyone else. It was the station reminding the galaxy that the Black Veil was not meant to be entered. Aria didn't flinch. Her crew moved with fast, quiet purpose. Boots hit the deck in steady rhythm. Tools clicked into holsters. Harness straps tightened. People checked each other's suits without being asked. There was no cheering, no dramatic speeches. Humans saved their emotion for the moments it mattered most. A holographic map floated in front of them, showing a pulsing point of light, an SOS beacon, deep inside a swirling, ink-dark cloud. The Black Veil looked like spilled night across the stars. Even the map refused to show what was inside it. The sensors could not. Envoy Letharry stood near the bay doors, her skin glowing a weak blue. She was not human. Her people were called Lumari, known for their gentle voices and bright cities. They did not build warships. They built homes. Now she watched humans prepare to enter a place the galaxy called certain death. "You truly believe you can do this?" Letharry said softly. It wasn't a question. It sounded like someone trying to convince their own heart. Aria glanced at her. "I believe we can try." "That is not the same." Aria's mouth tightened, not in anger, but in understanding. "No, it isn't. But it's all we ever get at the start." Near the ship's open ramp, Chief Engineer Thomas Cade slid out from under a maintenance panel, grease across his cheek like war paint. He held up a small device the size of a fist. It looked simple. Too simple. "What's that?" Jonah Reyes asked, stepping closer. Jonah was young, but his eyes were old in the way of people who had already lost something. Thomas grinned. "A lie." Jonah blinked. "A what?" "A lie we tell the universe," Thomas said, tapping the device. "The Veil scrambles sensors, eats signals, bends gravity. So we're not going to fight it with perfect math. We're going to cheat. This little beauty makes our ship's sensor shadow look like empty space. The Veil likes empty space. It ignores it." Letharry's glow flickered brighter in confusion. "You are tricking a region of space." Thomas shrugged. "Space has been tricking us for centuries. We're just returning the favor." Aria stepped up to the crew. "Final check. Everyone here is still choosing this." No one spoke at first. Then Jonah lifted his chin. "Yes, Others echoed it. "Simple. Clear. Human." Aria nodded once. "Then we go." They crossed the ramp and entered the ship. Inside the cockpit, the lights were dim, not because humans feared darkness, but because too much light made people forget how serious the void was. The front view showed the Black Veil like a wound in the stars. Anchor, the ship's artificial intelligence, spoke with a steady voice that sounded almost human, but not quite. Navigation status: uncertain. Hazard prediction: severe. Survival probability: not applicable due to insufficient data. Thomas sat at his console and cracked his knuckles. Love it when the computer gives up. Anchor continued. Crew heart rates elevated. Recommendation: abort mission. Aria leaned forward, fingers resting on the controls like a pianist about to play a dangerous song. Recommendation noted. Ignored. The station released their clamps. The ship drifted forward, slow at first, like a breath being held. Beyond the bay doors, the Concord station shrank behind them. Hundreds of alien ships floated nearby, watching. None moved to follow. None offered escort. None offered help. They were not cruel. They were simply committed to not dying for strangers. Letharry watched the station fade and whispered, almost like prayer, "Please, let your madness be enough." The moment the Iron Promise crossed the boundary into the black veil, the universe changed. The stars dimmed as if something drank their light. Static crawled across every display. The ship's hull vibrated, not from impact, but from invisible pressure squeezing reality itself. Jonah gripped his armrest as the ship suddenly felt heavier. Gravity spike. Thomas barked. 3 times normal, 4, 5. Arya's hands tightened on the controls. Compensate. Anchor's voice sharpened. Structural strain increasing. Hull integrity, 92%. 89%. 86%. Letharai's glow dimmed again, fear bleeding through her skin like cold. Thomas flipped switches fast, not panicked, but focused. If we try to push through like a normal ship, we'll snap like a twig. We need to ride it. Ride it, Jonah repeated, trying to understand. Arya's eyes stayed forward. Like a wave. Outside, the blackness twisted. Something moved, massive shapes like shadows of mountains drifting through smoke. There was no light to reflect off them, but their presence bent the thin dust around them. Space itself seemed to curve, as if afraid to look at them directly. Jonah swallowed. Are those things? Anchor answered before anyone else could. Unknown anomalies detected. Classification unavailable. Thomas muttered, "Yeah, that's comforting." Arya's voice stayed steady. "We came for the beacon. Keep scanning for the signal." Anchor paused. Signal faint. Intermittent. Direction, forward. Letharry leaned closer, hope forcing brightness into her skin. "It's still there." Arya nodded. "Then so are they." The ship pushed deeper. Minutes stretched like hours. Every few seconds, the veil hit them with a new kind of danger. Radiation bursts that made the panels spark, gravitational twists that tried to spin them sideways, pockets of cold that frosted the inside of the windows. Thomas kept the ship alive by refusing to treat the veil like a normal place. He rerouted power through systems that weren't meant to be used that way. He used the ship's own vibration to cancel out external pressure. He even vented a thin mist of charged particles behind them, an artificial tail that Anchor could track when the stars disappeared. "Human engineering is like yelling at physics until it gets tired," Letharry said, half in awe. Thomas flashed her a grin. "Works more often than it should." Then the beacon jumped. It wasn't gradual. One moment it was a weak whisper on the screen. The next it was a loud, clear pulse, like a heartbeat suddenly heard in a quiet room. Anchor spoke quickly. "Beacon proximity. Close. Estimated distance. 200,000 kilometers. Visual contact. Imminent." Arya's throat tightened. "Bring us around." The dark fog thinned just enough for the ship's forward lights to touch something solid. A shape emerged. A massive ship drifted ahead, broken and silent. Its hull was torn open like a wound, metal twisted outward. Frozen debris floated around it like bones. The name on its side was faint but readable. Dawn Pilgrim. Letharry gasped. "That's not the Grace." Jonah's voice dropped. "So whose ship is that?" Anchor's next words made the cockpit feel colder than space. "New transmission detected," Anchor said. "Not from the SOS beacon." Arya frowned. "Play it." The speakers filled with a sound that was not language, at first. It was a low, pulsing rhythm, like something knocking from inside a coffin. Then it shifted into words, broken but clear enough to understand. "Turn back," the message said. "We tried. It learns." Arya stared at the dead ship ahead. And then, in the darkness beyond it, something moved, fast. Not drifting. Not floating. Hunting. The Iron Promise alarm screamed as a shadow the size of a city slid toward them, and the lights on the console died one by one. In the sudden black, Arya's voice cut through like steel. "Everyone, hold on." And the black veil finally noticed them. The darkness did not rush them. It circled. Commander Arya Vale felt it before she saw it. Pressure, not on the ship, but on her instincts. Every human in the cockpit felt it too. Their bodies tensed the way prey does when something larger decides to stop hiding. Outside the forward window, the shadow shifted. It was not a single shape. It was many layers of darkness folding over each other, like a storm made of gravity instead of clouds. Stars behind it bent and vanished. Space itself seemed thinner around it, stretched like fragile skin. Anchor's voice returned. Quieter now. External mass detected. Size. Indeterminate. Behavior pattern. Adaptive. Thomas exhaled slowly. That's not good. Jonah swallowed. Is it alive? No one answered immediately. Then Let Harry whispered, her glow flickering in panic. That is a Veil Warden. Arya's eyes snapped toward her. Explain. My people's old stories, Let Harry said. We thought they were myths. Guardians born from the Veil itself. Not creatures, not machines. They don't protect territory. They protect silence. The shadow shifted again, closer now. The ship groaned as invisible forces brushed against its hull. Anchor continued, Object is responding to our power output. The more energy we use, the more defined it becomes. Thomas cursed under his breath. It's learning us by feeling the ship. Arya made a decision. Cut non-essential systems. All of them. Jonah hesitated. That'll leave us blind. Yes, Arya said. And quiet. One by one, lights dimmed. Screens went dark. The hum of systems faded until the ship felt like a coffin drifting through cold water. Only emergency indicators remained, glowing faint red. The shadow paused. It drifted past the Iron Promise, so close that frost spread across the outer hull. Jonah held his breath. Letharai's glow dropped to a terrified flicker. Seconds stretched. Then the pressure eased. It's moving away, Jonah whispered. Thomas nodded slowly. It's searching for noise. Arya leaned back, heart pounding but voice calm. Then we stay quiet. Anchor spoke again, almost curious. Commander, this strategy contradicts all known navigation protocols. Arya allowed herself a thin smile. That's because protocols are written by people who survived safe space. They waited. Minutes passed. The Veil Warden faded into the darkness like a bad thought forced away. Only when the gravity stabilized did Arya allow systems to return. As power flowed back, the Dawn Pilgrim drifted fully into view. The ship was ancient, older than the Concorde itself. Scorch marks covered its hull, not from weapons, but from something that burned space rather than metal. Escape pods were missing. The breach along its side looked deliberate. They didn't crash, Thomas said quietly. They opened themselves. Why? Jonah asked. Let Harry stared at the ship, her glow dim and mournful. Because something was already inside. Anchor interrupted. Beacon signal originating beyond this wreck. Additional debris field detected. Pattern suggests multiple failed rescue attempts. Arya clenched her jaw. So everyone who tried before us died before reaching the target. Yes, Anchor replied. Probability updated, extremely low. Arya leaned forward. Still not zero. They pushed past the wreckage, deeper into the black veil. The darkness thickened again, but now the crew understood its rhythm. They learned when to cut power, when to surge forward, when to let gravity pull instead of fighting it. Human learning was fast when death was patient. Hours later, the beacon appeared. It was small, damaged, spinning slowly. Its light pulsed weakly, like a tired heart. And behind it. There, Jonah breathed. The ship Graceful drifted in a pocket of distorted calm, wrapped in a shell of debris like armor made of wreckage. Plates from other ships. Broken hulls. Frozen cargo containers. Someone had built a nest. Thomas stared at the scans. They used dead ships as radiation shields. Arya felt a spark of fierce pride. Smart. Letharai's glow flared bright for the first time. They are alive. Anchor confirmed it. Life signs detected. Approximately 300. Condition critical. Jonah whispered, 300 out of 3,000. Silence fell. Then the veil reacted. The moment the Iron Promise increased power to approach, the darkness shifted violently. The wardens returned, not one, but three. Massive silhouettes moving with terrible certainty. They know we're here, Thomas said. Arya didn't hesitate. Docking will take how long? Thomas checked. 10 minutes if nothing goes wrong. And if something does? He looked at her. Then we improvise. The wardens closed in. Space twisted around them, crushing debris into powder. One brushed past a floating hull fragment and erased it completely. Anchor warned, Commander, direct engagement is not advised. We're not engaging, Arya said. We're distracting. She turned to Jonah. You ran Endurance back on Earth, right? Jonah nodded. Yes, Good, she said. Because we're about to run for our lives. Arya ordered the ship forward, straight at the wardens. Let Harry cried out. That is suicide. No, Arya said. It's bait. The Iron Promise surged, engines flaring brighter than before. The wardens reacted instantly, drawn to the energy spike like predators to blood. Then Arya cut engines. The ship went dark and dead, drifting. The wardens overshot. In the split second of confusion, Thomas rerouted all remaining power to thrusters and slammed them sideways. The ship skidded through warped space, barely missing a crushing gravity wave. Jonah laughed, a sharp, wild sound. They can't predict us. Anchor corrected, they are adapting. Then we adapt faster, Arya replied. They reached the Gracefall at full burn. Magnetic clamps locked on. The hull screamed as radiation flared, but the debris shield held. Arya opened the channel. This is Commander Arya Vale of the Terran Recovery Corps. If anyone can hear me, help is here. Static crackled. Then a weak voice answered, trembling with disbelief. Human, ship. Is this a hallucination? Arya closed her eyes for half a second. No, it's real. The wardens howled, not with sound, but with force. Space convulsed around them. Thomas shouted, We don't have much time. Arya straightened. Then we don't waste any. She turned to let Harry. Tell your people to prepare for evacuation. Letherai's glow blazed like sunrise. They will remember this day forever. Outside, the veil pressed closer. Inside, humanity had arrived. And for the first time in its endless darkness, the black veil faced something it had never truly understood. Creatures that did not retreat. Creatures that learned. Creatures that would run straight through hell if someone was waiting on the other side. The first human boots touched the hull of the Gracefall with a heavy clang. Commander Arya Vale led the boarding team through the docking tunnel as the ship shuddered around them. The black veil pressed closer, like a storm that had finally decided where to strike. Gravity fluctuated with every step. The walls groaned. Somewhere far outside, one of the veil wardens passed close enough to make the metal scream. Inside the Gracefall, the air was thin and cold. Emergency lights flickered weakly, painting the corridors in sickly amber. The ship smelled of ozone, burnt wiring, and something worse, fear that had been sitting too long with nowhere to go. They really built a fortress out of wreckage, Thomas said quietly as he scanned the corridor. I've never seen anything like this. They didn't have a choice, Arya replied. That's when humans do their best work too. They moved forward. Survivors emerged slowly from side corridors and sealed compartments. Thin. Exhausted. Wrapped in patched suits and blankets made from torn insulation. When they saw the human rescue team, many froze in place, unsure if they were real. One Lamari child reached out with trembling fingers and touched Jonah's sleeve. You're solid, the child whispered. Jonah swallowed hard. Yeah. We're real. Hope spread faster than fear ever had. Arya met Captain Cerealis of the Gracefall near the central habitat ring. The alien commander stood straight despite injuries that would have dropped most species. Her bioluminescent skin was dull and cracked, but her eyes were sharp. "You came," Cyrillus said. "Not disbelief. Just wonder." "We heard you," Arya answered. "That was enough." Cyrillus let out a slow breath. "Then we have little time. The veil does not allow visitors." As if summoned by the words, the ship lurched violently. Anchor's voice crackled through Arya's commander. "Veil wardens adjusting strategy. They are no longer drawn only to power output." Arya frowned. "What changed?" "They are responding to life density." Silence fell across the channel. "They can feel us," Jonah said. "Yes," Anchor replied. "And they are converging." Thomas cursed openly. "Of course they are." Arya made the call instantly. "Evacuation priority Alpha. Children, injured, then everyone else. We don't leave anyone behind." Cyrillus stared at her. "Commander, there are 300 of us. Your ship cannot." Arya met her gaze. "We'll make it fit." Humans spread through the graceful with ruthless efficiency. They cut through sealed doors. They rerouted power with bare hands and improvised tools. They carried survivors who could no longer walk. They shared oxygen without being asked. No one questioned the order. No one complained. Outside, the veil erupted. The wardens moved with terrifying coordination now. Gravity waves slammed into the debris shield. Entire ship fragments shattered like glass. Radiation flared bright enough to bleach the stars. On the Iron Promise, Thomas fought the controls like a man wrestling a storm. "They've learned our tricks," he shouted. "They're collapsing space ahead of us, trying to box us in." Arya dragged the last survivor aboard and sealed the hatch behind her. "Anchor, options." Anchor paused, a fraction longer than usual. "Standard escape probability, negligible." "Human escape probability," Arya snapped. Another pause. "Shorter this time. There is an untested solution." Arya smiled grimly. "I was hoping you'd say that." Anchor projected a map of warped space around them. At the center was a dense, unstable knot of gravity, a place every alien ship had avoided. "That's suicide," Jonah said. "That," Thomas said slowly, eyes lighting up, "is a slingshot." Anchor continued. "If we allow the wardens to force us into the gravity knot, then ignite all engines at maximum output at precisely the right moment, the veil's own distortion may eject us." "May," Let Harry repeated. Arya nodded. "Good enough." The Iron Promise lurched as another gravity wave slammed into it. Alarms screamed. Hull integrity dropped. "Commander," Anchor warned, "crew stress levels critical." Arya activated ship-wide comms. "This is Commander Vale," she said calmly. "Listen up. We are about to do something incredibly stupid. Which means it might work. Trust your training. Trust each other. And remember, someone is alive today because we came." Silence. Then Jonah's voice broke through, steady despite everything. "Ready, Commander." Others followed. One by one. The wardens closed in. Space itself seemed to fold, dragging the Iron Promise toward the gravity knot. Stars stretched into lines. Time felt wrong, thick, heavy. "Now!" Arya shouted. Thomas slammed the engines to full. The ship screamed. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then reality broke. The gravity knot collapsed inward, then exploded outward. The wardens recoiled, momentarily disoriented by the sudden change. The Iron Promise was hurled forward like a stone flung by an angry god. Light returned in a blinding rush. Stars snapped back into focus. The black veil vanished behind them. Silence fell. For several seconds, no one spoke. No alarms. No pressure. No darkness. Then Anchor spoke softly. "We have exited the veil." Jonah laughed, breathless and disbelieving. Someone cried. Someone else sank to the floor, shaking. Let Harry collapsed to her knees, her skin glowing brighter than Arya had ever seen. "You did it," she whispered. You truly did it. Arya exhaled for the first time in what felt like years. Status. Ship damaged, Anchor reported. But functional. Survivors stable. Message traffic, increasing. Arya frowned. Message traffic. The main screen lit up. Dozens of alien signals flooded in, astonishment, disbelief, fear. From the Concorde. They're watching, Jonah said. Yes, Arya replied. They always were. She straightened her shoulders and looked at the camera. At the galaxy. This is Commander Arya Vale of the Terran Recovery Corps, she said. Mission complete. Survivors recovered. The silence on the other end was absolute. Then, slowly, something changed. Across the galaxy, probability models were rewritten. For the first time in recorded history, the Black Veil had given something back. And humanity had proven what it had always known. Impossible was just another word for not yet. The galaxy did not respond right away. That alone told Arya Vale how deeply the rules had been broken. Inside the Iron Promise, emergency crews worked quietly. Survivors from the Gracefall were laid out in every available space, cargo bays, mess halls, even corridors. Humans moved among them with practiced care, checking vitals, sharing rations, stabilizing wounds with tools never meant for alien biology. They adapted anyway. Jonah knelt beside a Lumari elder whose light flickered weakly. He adjusted the thermal blanket, then offered his canteen. Small sips, Jonah said gently. The elder's eyes filled with liquid light. You should not exist, the elder whispered. Not like this. Jonah smiled tiredly. We hear that a lot. In the cockpit, Arya stared at the incoming data streams. Messages stacked on top of each other, requests, demands, questions. The Concorde of systems had finally found its voice again, and it was loud with confusion. They're arguing, Thomas said, wiping his hands on a rag as he leaned over a console. Emergency councils. Subcommittees. Probability analysts having collective breakdowns. Arya nodded. Good. Means they're paying attention. Anchor spoke in a measured tone. Commander, multiple Concorde representatives are requesting immediate explanation. Priority channel open. Arya didn't answer right away. She watched the stars instead. Peaceful. Indifferent. The same stars that had watched entire civilizations rise and fall without comment. Open the channel, she said. The main display filled with faces, some biological, some crystalline, some made of shifting light. Representatives who had once calmly declared the rescue impossible now stared at her like she was a paradox made flesh. One of them spoke, voice trembling despite their effort to sound composed. Commander Vale, your report contradicts established reality. Arya folded her hands. Reality doesn't mind being contradicted. A ripple of discomfort passed through the channel. You entered the Black Veil, another representative said. You encountered wardens. You extracted survivors. These outcomes have never occurred. Arya's expression hardened. They occurred today. Silence again. Then Envoy Letharry Quen stepped into frame, her bioluminescence bright and steady. She bowed deeply. My people live, Letharry said, because humans refused to accept your numbers. Several representatives dimmed visibly. This changes everything, one whispered. Yes, Arya agreed. It does. The Concorde tried to regain control of the conversation. Questions came fast, about technology, tactics, costs. Could the veil be crossed again? Could trade routes be established? Could the wardens be studied? Arya let them speak. Then she raised one hand. You're asking the wrong questions, she said. The channel quieted. You're trying to understand how we survived, Arya continued. That's not the lesson. The lesson is why we tried. One of the older representatives, a being of ancient gas and light, drifted forward. Explain. Arya's voice was calm, but it carried weight. You built a galaxy where safety decides worth. Where lives are measured against percentages. Humans don't work that way. Thomas crossed his arms behind her. Jonah stood at her side. Survivors gathered in the background, watching. When someone sends a signal asking for help, Arya said, we don't ask if it's efficient. We ask if we can reach them. And if the answer is maybe, we go. That philosophy will cost lives, a representative argued. Arya nodded once. It already has. Ours. Yours. Everyone's. The difference is, we don't use that as an excuse to stop. The Concorde fell silent. Far across the galaxy, data networks adjusted. Risk models failed. Ancient assumptions cracked. Anchor spoke softly, almost to itself. Commander, I am updating internal parameters. I no longer classify impossible as a terminal condition. Thomas chuckled. Careful, buddy. That's how you become human. Later, when the channel closed, the Iron Promise drifted toward the nearest safe system. Medical ships finally arrived, sent by a Concorde that no longer dared to refuse. As docking clamps locked on, alien crews stared openly at the human ship. At its scars. At the patched hull that should not have survived. A Concorde official met Arya at the airlock. The survivors will receive full sanctuary. Refuge status. Medical priority. Arya nodded. Good. The official hesitated. Commander, what will humanity do next? Arya glanced back at her crew. At the survivors behind them. At a galaxy that had just learned fear could be challenged. We'll keep listening, she said. For signals you've stopped answering. As the doors opened, applause echoed, hesitant at first, then growing. Not just from Lumari. From other species too. Ones who had lost people to silence. Ones who had learned to give up. Hope, it turned out, was contagious. And far away, deep within the black veil, something ancient shifted. The wardens did not feel anger. They felt curiosity. For the first time, the darkness wondered. What kind of creatures ran toward extinction-level threats? And what would happen if they came back? The black veil did not sleep. Deep within its folded gravity and broken light, the wardens drifted in patterns older than memory. They were not alive in the way humans defined life, but they were not machines either. They were systems, guardians formed when the veil was young, when the universe decided that some places should remain untouched. For eons, nothing had challenged them. Until now. Fragments of data rippled through the veil, not as signals, but as impressions. The shape of the human ship. The way it vanished instead of breaking. The strange behavior of its crew, how they reduced power when hunted, increased it when trapped, and chose risk over retreat. The wardens adjusted. And somewhere far beyond the veil, humanity prepared to return. The Concorde station had never been this loud. Species that once spoke only through carefully measured statements now argued openly. Emergency councils overlapped. Old doctrines were questioned. Entire probability frameworks were marked obsolete. At the center of it all stood Commander Arya Vale. She did not raise her voice. She did not threaten. She simply answered questions honestly, and refused to apologize. The Black Veil is still dangerous, Arya said to the assembled council. We didn't tame it. We survived it. A crystalline representative flickered with unease. And yet you propose returning. Yes. Murmurs spread like static. You already proved your point, another voice said. Why risk more lives? Arya's eyes hardened. Because proving a point wasn't the mission. Saving lives was. She gestured to the viewing gallery above. Hundreds of rescued survivors watched from behind transparent barriers. Lumari families, children clinging to blankets, elders supported by human medics. They're alive because we went once, Arya continued. There are others still out there. Old wrecks. Lost expeditions. Signals you stopped listening for. The Concorde hesitated. Then let Harry Quen stepped forward. My people survived because humans ignored your fear, she said. If you return to silence now, then this rescue meant nothing. That broke something. The Concorde voted. Not unanimously. Not comfortably. But they voted to allow human-led recovery missions into forbidden zones, under human command, using human methods. The galaxy had not changed overnight. But it had cracked. Back aboard the Iron Promise, the crew prepared for departure again. Repairs were rushed. New shielding was layered over old scars. Thomas worked until his hands shook, then kept working anyway. "You know they're adapting," Jonah said quietly, watching the stars beyond the viewport. Thomas nodded. "Yeah. So are we." Anchor's voice carried a new tone now, less rigid, more thoughtful. "Commander, I have integrated behavioral analysis from the Veil Wardens. They are no longer responding purely as environmental phenomena." Arya looked up. "Meaning?" "They are learning." Arya smiled faintly. "So are we." This time, they didn't go alone. 3 human ships followed the Iron Promise. Not warships. Recovery vessels. Medical carriers. Ugly, patched things built for survival, not elegance. The Concorde watched them depart in silence. The moment they crossed into the black veil, the universe bent again. Darkness closed around them. But this time, the Wardens did not attack. They observed. Massive shapes drifted at the edge of perception, testing, probing. Gravity shifted, not crushing, but curious. Jonah's hands hovered over the controls. "They're waiting." "Yes," Anchor replied. "They are assessing change." Arya stood from her seat and activated an external broadcast. Not a weapon signal. Not a challenge. A message. "This is Commander Arya Vale," her voice echoed into the darkness. "We're here to recover the lost. We will not damage the Veil. We will not take what isn't ours. But we will not leave people behind." The Wardens responded. Not with force, but with pressure. A wave of gravity swept past the ships, gentle enough to guide rather than crush. The debris fields shifted, opening pathways through wreckage that had been sealed for centuries. Thomas stared at the data. "They're helping." Anchor processed for a long moment. Conclusion: the Wardens are not defending territory. They are enforcing balance. Human behavior has altered acceptable parameters. Jonah exhaled. "We changed the rules." "No," Arya said softly. "We reminded the universe why they exist." They found more wrecks. More survivors. Species long thought extinct. Stories long cut short. Each recovery rewrote galactic history. Each rescue sent shockwaves through cultures that had built their identities on caution and control. And humanity became something new in the eyes of the stars. Not conquerors. Not saviors. But responders. Years later, children across the galaxy would learn a new term. Not Deathworlders. But signal keepers. Species that ran toward danger when someone called. Species that treated hope as a responsibility. The Black Veil remained dangerous. It always would. But it was no longer silent. Because somewhere, whenever a beacon pulsed in the dark, whenever a voice whispered pleas into the void, humanity listened. And more often than not, they answered. Not because success was guaranteed, but because trying was who they were. And the universe, slowly and reluctantly, learned to make room for that kind of madness. End.